You're listening to Served Up, a podcast that features inspiring beverage professionals and topic experts that share their passions through meaningful conversations. I'm your host, Bridget Albert, also known as a Market Fresh Mixologist, an industry mentor with decades of experience. Grab a cocktail and sit back. Let's learn how we can make a positive impact in our industry. Hey, y'all, it's Bridget here. Please join me in welcoming someone who represents the very best of what our industry can be: purpose-driven, community-centered, and unapologetically committed to lifting others as he climbs. Geoffrey Wilson is doing powerful work through Turning Tables New Orleans, creating real pathways to education and career advancement for the Black and Brown talent who deserve not just a seat at the table, but ownership of it. He understands that hospitality is more than service. It's opportunity, dignity, and economic empowerment. With heart, skill, and lived experience, he's helping reshape the future of our industry into one that truly reflects the culture and brilliance that fuels it. Geoffrey, we are grateful for your leadership and impact you continue to make. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite cocktail, and enjoy the show. Geoffrey, welcome to Served Up. I'm really happy to have you on the show today. Can you tell our folks a little bit about yourself and what brought you into the beverage industry?
Boy, ooh, this is a long one because I'm old as fuck. I started, I guess, in college, Glassboro State. That's where I went. The place that I used to live, there was a bar in the basement, and and with a working tap system. And I used to like keep that up. I was a big beer guy when I was younger. Moved to Chicago in 95 because I was kind of floundering in New Jersey. And every bar that I went to in Chicago had Guinness, and I love Guinness. I know it's a weird thing to say, but just I love Guinness. So
I love Guinness too.
So I was like, great
beer.
My first job was, I was bartending a little bit out of college. And then my first gig was actually, how long have you lived in Chicago, Bridget?
I don't live in the city proper. I live in the burbs, and I was born and raised.
Okay. Do you remember a place called Sweet Alice on Damon Avenue?
No.
Sweet Alice was a dive bar on Damon below Division. That was my first bartending gig in Chicago. And then I went to Delilah's, and then I went to Sheffield's.
Delilah's. We have to pause because that's an intense whiskey bar. Can you talk about what that experience was like?
Delilah's. So this was Mike trying to be the best bar in the world, but also still with that punk rock aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work bar back most of the times. And then for some reason, he was doing Bills games, and I would work these Bills games. And it was the weirdest thing because they were all sports fans. And then I would, because of the two turntables back there, I'm a record guy. I would bring in hip hop and like Aphex Twin and just annoy the shit out of all those people, all the Bills fans. Like, can't you play something normal? No. And then I worked at Chef. His thing was, I remember the first time I had Pappy back when they were still at Stitzel Weller and still some of the best juice in the world. I love that. I introduced my dad to Pappy. Then I went to Sheffield's, and I was at Sheffield's until at least 99, almost 2000, worked at the Map Room. I was working for a while. I used to do the door at Metro for a while, but I was also working with the people. Like I would work at all the venues like the Vic and all the music venues. So that was pretty fun. And then there was a bar that now doesn't exist anymore called Ouija's Lounge. And I was out on Armitage past Kimball. And Ouija's was trying to do this cocktail thing around the time that Violet Hour opened up. And I remember all my friends and stuff like that were like, we're going to the Violet Hour. We're gonna do the Violet Hour. And I was like, great. I don't know nothing about cocktails. I'm still kind of a beer guy, but at Ouija's, We did Wisconsin old fashions, basically, grasshoppers, stuff like that. And then Toby Maloney, I guess, came in and he was teaching me a few things like how shitty ice is, well, because we had shitty ice and how that affects things and just how to kind of stir because I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And then 2009, well, I have to pause for a second because I ran a record label from 2001 until I left Chicago in 2008. So that was basically bartending was my second job. I was involved in the music scene, Meotic. I've played Metro and a whole bunch of places, DJing and shit like that. But, I still kept one foot because the bar business was, well, it was something I was trying to get out until I discovered cocktail bartending. And after I got 2008, I won Best Bartender from the Reader. And you can look that up. It's real.
I believe you. You've worked at some of the most iconic places in the city of Chicago.
Well, then I worked my last two jobs in Chicago were Underbar on Western and the Violet Hour.
Violet Hour. Amazing.
And then I washed out of the Violet Hour because I guess I just didn't understand it. And I met this woman. I moved to Pittsburgh and I was just working at hotel bars until I found out that there was a cocktail bar in Pittsburgh called Embry. And it turned out that Embry was run by Freddie Sarkis. I met Freddie a few times in Chicago through other people, and he was always busy doing shit. And, I never had like a real conversation with him. But I showed up at Embry one time. And he was like, hey. And I'm like, hey. And he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I just moved here because I'm trying to be with my fiance and shit. He's like, you need a job? I'm like, hell yeah. So Freddie gave me the breakdown and it just clicked. It clicked. And so Freddie left and I ran that place for a little while. And then I moved out of Pittsburgh and I moved to New Orleans where I met Chris Hanna and Chris McMillan and Kimberly Patton Bragg. And when I moved down here, the Museum of the American Cocktail was still open. And I got to meet black bartenders, which I didn't see in Chicago at all.
No.
Was any spot at all where I was. And I was like, oh shit, okay, this is going to be like my place. But I worked at Tonique. I worked at Loa. I opened up Victory, but there wasn't, other than Daniel Victory, other than my homie Travis Sanders, there still wasn't enough of us down there. Our undercover brother, Chris Hanna, there wasn't too many of us down here. So Cure's white as fuck. And that wasn't changing for a while. I got to, be friends with Kirk and Turk. Well, Turk is kind of funny because Turk is a musician. He's in a very famous band. Well, at least in the underground. And I got to know Turk because of my musician friends. And then working in the Museum of American Cocktail with a whole bunch of people. And that just kind of became family. I mean, Rhiannon and all of those people are still like family to me. And this is the first time I felt like I was in a place that I could grow as a bartender. And then I had to move. My wife at the time was disabled and everything down here in terms of medical systems were completely fucked. So we moved to Phoenix, Arizona. And out there, I won Best Bartender in 2014 because all I was just doing was classic cocktail bartending.
Wow.
But Phoenix was a fraternity party, basically. And I left that shit behind a long time ago.
Yeah.
So we left that and we moved to Portland and I got a dream job at the same day that I got divorced, which was the Multnomah Whiskey Library. And for education wise and stuff like that, that was a big thing for me. But again, moving back to a city with no black bartenders whatsoever. So I could say first black guy to work at Violet Hour, first black guy to work in the Multnomah Whiskey Library as a bartender. And all of those things were rather depressing. I ain't gonna front. Yeah. There's a good amount of people over there. And this was at the time that Trump got elected the first time. So I was out there in the streets, never been tear gassed more in my life. But I met a bunch of people who were there for the cause. But Portland to me is, I call it White Wakanda. Portland to me, and now you shall too. Portland to me is basically like there's a whole bunch of Black Lives Matter signs, but there's not a lot of people that knew a lot about Black people out there. So Micah Anderson was out there at the same time. And I remember during one of the Portland Cocktail Weeks, I met Micah through Josh from Brown and Balance. So I got into Brown and Balance like this. Brown and Balance came and I wasn't on the program. So I called up Josh. I'm like, yo, son, if I'm not on there, I'm going to beat your fucking ass the next time. And I was on the program the next year. So I met Micah, and Micah was moving from Tulsa. And I'm like, first of all, other than the Gap Band, who the fuck lives in Tulsa? And he was like, well, I'm moving up here. And I'm like, why? So Micah was an anchor, especially during COVID. That's my man, $5,000. We don't talk very much, but when we do, we catch up. It's dope. And also I met, because of Brown and Balanced, and also at the time there was Raising the Bar. And I started to meet all these people, and there was definitely a movement that was happening because I didn't know. Well, I never went to camp because the first 2 years camp, I was invited, but I couldn't go because of my wife. And then after that, I was like, I'm not staying in a room with like 13 other people.
Well, can we talk about what camp is? Because a lot of our listeners
I'm sorry, Camp Run
understand.
Amok. Yes, Camp Run Amok. Camp Run Amok is basically people go up to Kentucky, you stay in a camp, you get to go hit the Bourbon Trail and get a lot of education. There's also a lot of partying and stuff like that too, but I think I was out of my party phase by then, so I wasn't able to do that. But camp in the beginning, not a lot of Black people. And then I remember Steve Yamada and Rocky were the first Asian guys to be up there. And then Josh and a bunch of people from Chicago were like the first Black people there. And then more and more and more people were coming. And since that was associated with Portland Cocktail Week because of Lush Life, they all came out to Portland as well. So I started to meet a bunch of more people. And also I was wondering where I was going to go with my bartending career in terms of what's next. Well, it was basically give back to people. So I started volunteering at a place called Stone Soup Kitchen. Taught this girl how to bartend in like 5 weeks. I gave her a shitload of information. I really did. And then another Brown and Balanced thing came, and I met Teray. Because Steve Yamada was like, yo, have you heard about this thing called Turning Tables? This is happening down here in New Orleans. It's great. I'm teaching. And I'm like, oh, wow, that looks really dope. That's cool. So then he hits me up again. I was like, hey, I'm doing Brown and Balanced, and he was like, have you met Teray? And I'm like, nope. So at the time when I met Teray, I already quit bartending. I was making ice for PDX Ice. And they asked me to do a cocktail, and I cut an ice. I'm like, oh, okay. They want me to do something. I'll just make a punch, Singleton rum, something else, ginger, blah. That's cool. And I made ice for everybody at the Brown and Balanced thing so they can have their own big cubes and shit. That was dope. And then Teray was like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. And he was like, yo, I did this class by myself. I need help. Can you come back to New Orleans? And right at that time, Jeff and Anine were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm making ice. And they're like, can you come back and do and work with us at Beach Bum? I'm like, hell yeah, let's go back to New Orleans. I'm not doing anything here. This doesn't really feel like home. Going back home, hell yeah. I haven't felt comfortable in a place since I left Chicago, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I get it. I actually do get it. I had moved around a bit myself, and the only place I feel at home is, the Chicagoland area.
Yeah. So, I took the chance and I went back and we started running classes, and it's been really fulfilling. I'm not going to front. It's because we're able to change the landscape. Rhiannon and Lil just said something a couple of days ago. Halfway to Tales was here on Monday, and there's a couple of activities. And I remember she introduced me to this woman whose name I don't remember at the present second, but she's teaching beer for the W sets. And I was like, man, I love beer. And we were talking about beer. And so Rhiannon goes, yeah, this is Geoffrey, works Turning Tables. And she said, remember how we were back, 2010, 2011? Well, all of that like broke up, and Turning Tables has brought back that sense of community. And I was like, fuck yeah. That's dope. We've had over 78 people go through the program, 78 or 79. I know at least 60 people have jobs either here in the city or have moved away and have jobs. It's a different thing, but it's necessary. It's definitely necessary in a city like this because again, just there wasn't a lot, especially when I moved back. It was getting better, but like it wasn't, the direction needed to change.
Yeah.
And we have tried to do that. And it's been pretty damn good. It's been a struggle now, especially with this new administration. It's been a struggle, but it's been pretty damn good.
That's wonderful to hear. Can you talk about the Turning Tables programs themselves? You talk about people going through the programs. What are those programs that are available?
So we're a 12-week program. We're teaching the basics of bartending, cocktail bartending, because in that idea of cocktail bartending, if you learn how to make cocktails, you can work anywhere. You can work in hotels. You can pull a Nick Jarrett and work in a dive bar, and it works. In the beginning, it was just the basics of cocktails, cocktail groups. We would teach vodka, how that's produced, gin, rum, and all of that. We would have activities. We'd take field trips. We would go to other nonprofits. Sometimes we would go to distilleries. We went out to Oxbow to see their sugar mill out there during harvest. We've done a lot of those things so people can see these. And then halfway through, we have this thing called an externship. And this is important. The externship is basically you go and you have somebody who else is a mentor and you go work with them like 8 hours a week. So Beach Bum, Chris Hanna, Cure, all of those people have participated in that.
That's a big commitment when you think about it. 8 hours a week is huge. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot up front, but when you think about it, I mean, because time is your greatest asset, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's a huge commitment.
It is. Along with other jobs that they had, they did this. They did these 8 hours, and they were able to know how a bar works because they started as a bar back, and then they would get a couple of things like, okay, make this drink or whatever, and then make these drinks, work in the well, stuff like that, so they can get, and then hopefully that would lead to a job. Erica Flowers was third year, and she interned at Cane and Table when I was working over there. And she was lucky enough that somebody else is leaving, that they offered her a job. There's been people who have, Sean Williams, she was the first extern for Chris Hanna, and she's been there for 4.5 years now over at Jewel of the South. And she's been able to try to do what she wants to do. She's our first like WSET 3 graduate in sake. We met Rob in 2020, Rob from the WSETs. We were talking with a bunch of people from New York on how to get like all of the education stuff in Spanish, along with the people from Another Round, Another Rally. And so Rob was a big advocate of what we were doing down here. And our second class, we were able to offer them WSET level 1, and everybody passed. And that was great. And so we started to do that with a lot of classes like WSET level 1 in spirits. And there was a couple of people who took the wine course. Jorge, who shout out to Jorge. He has been working for the Columns Hotel in their group for 4.5 years as well, to the point where he's running the wine program for the Columns, Fives in the Quarter, and they have another bar that I can't think of the name of right now. But he's a wine guy. We've had people from the community, Roxy, and all of these people who were giving their time to teach about this, because again, like, most people didn't know that like there's black and brown people in wine. Beach Bum Berry talked about the importance of people of Filipino heritage in the pursuit of tropical cocktails. That blew everybody's mind. David Wondridge, he talked about black bartenders. Because David was one of the first people to actually talk about that. I remember, was it Tales 2012 when he did that thing on the riverboat, talking about historical black bartenders back in the day.
Yeah.
So I asked him to do that course again, and that was like a real ego boost to everybody who was going through the program. Like, oh shit, okay, this history goes a lot deeper than that. That was being a commitment to the program. The only problem with Dave was every fucking time we had Dave on, his internet connection was shit. But
His energy vibrates at a higher level than most of us. That's why.
Yeah, that might be true. That might be true. That might be true. But his internet connection was shit all the fucking time, though. But like having people like that, because again, I think that bartenders of this next generation don't know who the fuck all these people that we looked up to are.
Yeah.
So there's who's David Wonder? It's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Oh, my God.
But I think that there's a lot of folks that are coming up right now within hospitality that maybe don't know, the folks that came before, like David.
Yeah. Or Dale.
Yeah. Who have done the work, the good work, and have really paved the path for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, they're used to the people from, the PDTs of the world and stuff like that, because those are the books that were readily available. There wasn't too many when we all started out.
Right.
Dale's book, we had Gary's book, we had a vibe. Toby made us read all those goddamn books.
Yeah.
So it's just like to get an understanding of this. Toby made us read all those books, and those books are still important. Turning Tables right now uses Death and Company's book, and we do use their cocktail codex.
Nice.
As a basis of teaching. So we've evolved the program over the years, because first it was just booze. And then it was like, well, we're coming out of COVID. What about mental health? We really should address that. There's an organization here called We Help NOLA that we're a part of. And We Help gives service industry people free mental health care twice a month. You get
incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, you get to go and you get to talk to a therapist twice a month. And my crazy ass has been doing that for 4.5 years now.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Because can we pause for 1 second and talk about just briefly about mental health and hospitality? Because it's definitely not talked about enough for folks that listen to this podcast that are not in our industry, right? And they're just curious about hospitality, or maybe just, curious about maybe entering or finding a path, career journey within this sector. Maybe don't understand the grind of it.
Where do you start? Fuck. All right, let's take a shift. Let's take a shift. Okay. Violet hour, we had to go in at least 2 hours before start. There would be the barbacks would start pumping out juices. We'd have to get everything organized, and then there would be service, and then we'd have to close. You were there for at least 8 or 9 hours. And there wasn't any drinking behind the bar. You had to obviously taste the cocktails that you made to make sure that they were fine. But things were different because the Violet Hour had rules. It had rules like no standing, no guys buying girls drinks, which I fucking loved, especially after working at dive bars the whole time, or beer bars, to do shit like that. It's just, and people got mad, but it was just like, that's your problem, not ours. And you're just constantly working. And then that outlet that you have is basically to go out with your friends and drink and bitch about what has happened. Sometimes you stay out till 2. Sometimes you stay out till 4. Sometimes you can find that those Eastern European bars up on Irving that are the key clubs that are open 24/7, and you're drinking until 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
And you're doing the walk of shame right back into your shift.
Yeah. And it's not healthy. And especially if you're hungover, and it's a never ending cycle. It just isn't healthy. So after COVID, with the hope of things starting to get better, that maybe we'd all be able to do a lot of positions. We'd all be able to do one house things where, one day I might work at the bar, and then the other day I might work on the floor, because everybody knows what everybody's doing. COVID was a wake up call for the service industry. I feel that we started to talk about how fucked up the service industry was. Yeah, everybody sees the results. Everybody sees how great this shit is, but they don't know about, if you can't make this cocktail, you can't make these series of cocktails, you might lose your job. If you get thrown behind the well and you fuck up, you might not have another shift. Within all of that, somebody down here was smart enough to be like, everybody needs help. And especially if you're in a place that doesn't, and most businesses, especially private businesses, do not give insurance. You have to go out and get your own insurance. And then once you start doing that, you're paying out the ass especially for mental health. So these people down here started We Help NOLA with a whole bunch of people that are therapists, just to give service industry people an outlet. to like not do the same things over and over and over again. In fact, one of the graduates from class number 7, his name is Toussaint, is now on the front page of We Help NOLA because he graduated from school and he's a mental health professional along with being a bartender.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is something to celebrate.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible.
One of our second years, Alana Jamel, she's a professor over at Xavier. So she did bartending because she wanted to do this, but she's a professor over at Xavier.
Wow.
So she comes back to us once in a while, but and it's dope to like see people, and like she's out there teaching people too. And I'm grateful that somebody like her has gone through our program.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I always say this, especially on this podcast, that there's so many transferable skills that we learn, right? As a bartender, as a bar manager, that are absolutely transferable to other careers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've had bartenders come to me and ask me multiple times across my too long of a career, asking me, hey, I just know how to make drinks. What can I do? What else is there? And they kind of give up. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Can we talk about those transferable skills? Obviously, y'all are teaching them at turning tables.
No, I absolutely felt the same way. It's just like, well, what the fuck else am I going to do with my life right now? But giving back is what's important, because it's like, if somebody comes down and gives you like a life skill, like what we did at the Museum of American Cocktail was like, Charles Jolie comes down and teaches us how to batch some shit. They fly him down, he does some shit, and it's like, all right, we get to pick his brain and shit like that, and it's dope. But it's like a lot of times in a lot of other cities, everybody keeps those ideas close to the vest because everybody's a hustler in the business. And if you get seen by something or somebody or some company or some shit like that, that's going to be more money. But down here in New Orleans, even Kirk, who is private as fuck, shared shit with us because he sees what it does for the community. It's not only like making workers and stuff like that, but also just like making the bar community a community itself. Where in Chicago, music venue places or stuff like that, those were, or the beer bars like Sheffield's and Delilah's and stuff like that. We all knew each other, and we all knew, we all hung out. So that was pretty cool. A community, especially a community of Black people and brown people being part of this bar community. I mean, that's why like Raising the Bar was there. Now Brown and Balanced, now Turning Tables, Chocolate City's Best. And everybody is like, no, we're getting the education. We're taking our W sets. We're doing all of this shit, because it's important in this business to not be left behind. Jackie Summers came down when I started. I'm an advisor on the advisory board for Another Round, Another Rally. Travis and Amanda are homies to the death. And Jackie came down and started talking to a bunch of people, and you can see all the way people just like, really? I'm not trying to be, I am being political because, again, there's a lot of motherfuckers that don't have a fucking clue. Yeah. They just don't.
We know that. We know that here on Served Up. That's actually why the podcast was created. So, yes.
Yeah, they don't have a fucking clue. And it's kind of annoying. And to see these people like, wow, this talk really opened up. I didn't know about these things. Well, you didn't ask either. So I'm glad that somebody was able to demonstrate this. But you guys, if we're supposed to be living here, we need to know about everything that's outside our door as well.
Right. And it's not the job of anybody that's Black and brown to ever educate someone who looks like me on any sort of struggle, any sort of strife, anything. I don't believe. I believe it's
talk to them.
I do. And I talk to them here and I have them on here. Trust me. But I do wholeheartedly believe that people that look like me, listen up. It's our responsibility to educate ourselves on what the fuck's going on.
Most definitely.
Always.
Most definitely.
Always. So, yeah, I love what you're doing. And I love that you're doing it for the community. You're doing it for, the community, for your community, the community as a whole. It just makes us all better. And it makes the beverage and hospitality more enriching, more interesting. The more folks we have in it, the more creativity is there. right? And the more opportunities are there and things that we didn't even realize that are possible come to life, which is amazing.
Well, every year at Tales, like Colin brings back people from Africa and stuff like that. And
Can we pause right there and talk about who Colin is?
Yeah, but I always fuck up his last name though.
I do too. I mean, Pia. So I was just with him in Washington, D.C.
Okay. I would fuck up Colin's last name, but Colin works for Bacardi, and he is from London, but originally his family is from Africa. And he has been traveling around Africa to find to see the cocktail scene that's out there. And it's been a big revelation for a lot of people here at Tales to see that, this is a worldwide thing. Cause I remember it was like crazy, like back in 2012 or if somebody came from Japan or some shit like that.
It was just like an anomaly.
Yeah. It was like an anomaly.
Yeah.
Because they were like a cap. Because hell, I mean, New Orleans people, because we live on an island ourselves, I think the first cap from New Orleans that wasn't part of the beginning team, and the beginning team was KPB, Hannah, and Rhiannon, didn't have one until another New Orleans person until 2012, I want to say. Yeah, I think it was 2012. And then after that, there was New Orleans people that are caps. We've only had one because only one person applied. One from Turning Tables who was a cap, and their name is Zen. And Zen is this wonderful, wonderful human being. She's born and raised here in New Orleans, Mexican heritage. Family is from there. She's been born here. She is an advocate for her community, and she's a motherfucking beast. Zen started out in coffee, and Zen is very quiet and very like unassuming and shit like that. And then she gets behind the bar and she's like, and then she's like, how was that drink? It's like, oh, it's fucking amazing, Zen. God damn.
I love that. She's like a ninja.
Yeah. Basically, she is. We had I remember specifically for her class, we took over a space to do this. For the final exam was basically we took the class and had a written exam in another room, and then people from the New Orleans bartending community judge them on the drinks that they make. And Zen is a Mexican goth, and she showed up, black lipstick, all black, and that was where I was like, all right, that's where they get their power from. That's where they get their power from. There are stories of ladies here that didn't know that they were good at this. Brittany, who didn't know that they wanted to get into wine. Brittany just moved back to Houston, but Brittany's a huge wine geek. She's been able to do Harvest for the first time. Jorge's been doing Harvest for like the past 3 years now. We haven't had too many wine people. Jay has been kind of towing the line between bartending and wine from the second class, but nobody else really has done that. We do have a person here. Oh, shit. If I don't mention Ari, she'll kill me. Ari Ballard, originally from New Orleans, moved out to Gonzales after Katrina, was living in Baton Rouge when we found her, and she moved back here to do Turning Tables. She is now the first Black licensed distiller in Louisiana.
Amazing.
Yeah. Shit like that. Like, I don't really like talking. I will talk about these motherfuckers all day. I will. I'm not going to front. I will talk about these motherfuckers all day because I am proud of each and every one of them. James, Zen's partner, is this terror of tequila and mezcal. They didn't know what they wanted to do, so they just decided that they wanted to put all of their money into learning about all of this. And they've taken trips to Mexico, and they're becoming an expert. We all took our level 3s. A whole bunch of us from Turning Tables, we all took our level 3s and we all failed. So we have to go back and do it again.
It's so hard.
So fucking hard.
Can you talk about that? Just like about the education. No, yes, because I need you to clarify two things because served up, we're in 62 countries, right? And so some folks might have never been to Tales before. They might not know what a cap is. So can we start there? And then I want to talk about the education part because I'm going through it myself and I have some learning disabilities and it's so hard. It is just hard. So Let's talk about what a cap is first.
Okay. So a cap is basically you get picked by the committee to come down and work for free. But I always make fun of them because I always call it free labor. But there's so many people that were caps. So basically during the week of Tales of the Cocktail, you're in the background and there's a team that juices for the whole week and there's a team that serves for the whole week. So let's say there's a seminar. Let's say you do a seminar, Bridget, and you decide to do a seminar on women in cocktails and you decide to do some drinks that were made by women throughout our time that are famous. So these people would batch these cocktails and they would serve little like mini cocktails. And the caps are out here and they're serving these people and they get recognized at the end of the work that they do. And hopefully it leads to something, good in their future. There are people who are caps who have great careers now. And there are people who are caps who are still working in bars. It just is what it is. But it's still a way to network and meet people throughout the business and stuff like that. And people are way more open than they have been before. Let's face it. The old Tales was a fucking wank fest. It was. Where the new Tales is definitely more higher on education now. Mm-hmm. There's more Black people at Tales. I mean, my first Tales was 2009 and it was me, Colin, who else?
2009, it might have been Lynn House, Clyde Davis.
Yeah. I don't even know who else. Rum guy from England whose name I'm fronting on at 9:50 in the morning. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was it. And again, I think the first Black cap that I saw was 2011, and I don't remember where he was from. Yeah, I mean, it's a way to get in the industry. It's just like if you're staging in a bar, basically, you're just staging at this thing. Yeah, you get to stay in a hotel and you get a little stipend, but you're working your ass off like 10, 12 hours a day.
But you get to network.
Yeah, but you
get access.
You're networking
right?
with people. I would say back in the day, you were networking with people who are willing to network with you. Now it's more open. It's way more open. It's not, Bridget, you're kind of famous. So motherfuckers would, like, oh my God, it's Bridget, Yeah, you say that, but people know who you are. People, in terms of that, especially back in those days, it was just like, put these people up on a pedestal. Here's what they're peddling. Let's have a party afterwards. Right. And after a while, that shit was annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'm glad that Tales has changed.
Yeah, I am too. It's
on the education side.
I mean, I remember back in the day when the CAP program was first invented, created, whatever, the first class of CAPs, and they were batching cocktails, like kind of looked like the basement of the Hotel Monteleone. And it was a fucking pit. It was you walk up the stairs, it's that little kitchen that's actually in between the two buildings. It was so bad.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing a mouse in there and come on. I mean, you see that everywhere, whatever, but it was like better conditions. And I remember buying pizza for it just because, like, when I was talking to everybody in there and they're like, yeah, we've been in here for like 10 hours. I'm like, did you eat it? I'm a mom. So I'm like, did you eat anything?
Yeah.
Let me order y'all some pizza. And then I had to, go on my way. But I just couldn't believe the conditions. Could not believe the conditions that folks are working and willing to work and happy to work.
Yeah.
That's hoping to have that access. And what you're saying is absolutely true. Like, yeah, okay, we're going to give you maybe a ticket to a party and then you can go and hopefully you can speak to somebody who's there. But now it's definitely flipped, which is so important. It's a genuine structured program.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And the people that are there that are willing to lead these seminars and stuff like that are very open and honest about what they're doing and all of that. And there's a shitload of information that can come from these people and they're willing to share. Before I like to tell this story, and I'll tell this to you real quick. Museum of the American Cocktail, Dale came down and me and KPB were batching one of his cocktails. And this is Sweet Dale. This is back Sweet Dale when Dale was still a little bit on the sweeter side. So we batched this cocktail and we're like, it's too sweet. What are we going to do? I don't know. Should we tell Dale? Well, yeah, we got to tell Dale. Well, how are we going to tell him? I don't know. He's like, this fucking bartender, dude. I don't know what we should tell him. No, you tell him. No, I'll tell him. No, you tell him. Finally, we're like, Mr. DeGraff, your cocktail, the specs are a little bit too sweet. He's like, put fucking bitters in it. Jeez. We're just like, okay. When we went back, we're like, yay. Oh my God. He talked to us, we put bitters. And he's like, guys, you need to calm the fuck down. Really. If there's something, I'm open and willing to, if there's something, because we thought back then that what Dale put down, what Gary put down was law.
Yeah.
That you cannot stray from that. You cannot stray from that. And he was just put fucking bitters in it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Dale's always been consistently, since I've known Dale, at least, the same man.
Yes. But when you read a book by somebody and then he comes down and he talks to you, we're the generation of starfuckers. We are.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. It's going back to mental health. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely true. Now I want to move on. You're not going to get out of talking about education and how fucking hard it is, because I just took the WSET level 2 wine, which I was told was incredibly easy and all these things. And I never pretended to know a thing about wine. I knew it was red, white, sometimes had bubbles. I understood, a lot of how it was made, because I do understand distillation thanks to, having spirit knowledge. But for someone just to go in to take these exams and to pass even if it is a level 1 or a level 2, like, I don't know that I'll take level 3. I don't know that I will. Can you talk about how difficult it is? And then on the other side, can you talk about how important it is as well to go through these programs and the credibility that it will give you and having it on your resume?
Well, here's the most important thing in my estimation and in my little world is that Black and brown people, if you don't have the accreditation on your resume, there are some assholes that are going to look at it and not see anything. I, for myself, have been lucky. I spell my name with a G and I sound like a white guy on the phone. I ain't gonna front. So on that education side, when we met Rob was very interested in what we were doing, and he wanted us to move this forward because the WSETs is very European, very English, very stuffy. When you're taking this course, you have to learn about how everything is made, how a column still works and what the plates in the columns are and refraction and things like that. You have to know what Q is when sochu is being made. You have to know specific things like on if we're working with an alembic still, what are all the pieces on the alembic still called? You do a blind tasting. And with that blind tasting, you need to tell what it is, what they poured for you and what it is. One of the things that he's done with us is he's been trying to change the language. If we put our nose in something, as an example, because again, when we taste things, this is coming from our experience. When I first started tasting wine, when I managed a liquor store in New Jersey, this woman was talking all this shit that I just never knew about, and it just smells like grapes to me. And so now it's just like, well, hey, if this thing here, this gin kind of reminds me of collard greens. This is something that my parents made when I was younger, put a little ham bone in there, a little vinegar, and that's what it reminds me of. Can I say something like that? And he's like, yeah. Oh, shit. Okay. Well, then now he's trying to make us all relate to it. It's important because now we have a say in how it's being administered to people. And these days, education, especially if you're trying to work for a company, you're trying to sell something. Those things are rather CSS, WSET, bar smarts. Those things are important because it separates. There's people out there who are absolute naturals, right? They get behind a bar, they get it right away, and they can move up in the world very quickly. But those who need an education and understanding of that also makes better bartenders as well. WSET 3 is a bitch. I ain't gonna front. I'm going to do it again and I'm going to pass it this time because my learning disability is I just fucking psych myself out for shit. I'm starting to get better on my low self-opinion, but I've been very, very consistent with my low self-opinion. So at least I can say.
You have to go into this. I'm sorry for that because you have to go into these tests with a bit of confidence.
Yeah, because there's
there's two people
and you can here trust. Who have passed it. Yeah. Matt Ray and Rhiannon. Matt Ray said it was one of the hardest things he's ever done. Rhiannon, after the test, she said she sat under a desk and cried.
Same. And I just on the wine because okay. Okay. Because I have a bit of dyslexia. And so,
Okay.
taking, I do better with like pictures of things to learn,
Mhm.
right? Very visual learner. And I actually love to read, but it takes me a long time to do stuff. So anyhow, after taking just on the wine, I drove home and I cried the whole way home. And I said, there's no fucking way I pass this. And I do not want to take it again. I don't want to take it again. I passed it, which I was glad. And I was shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked. And, and some folks, like you're saying, are just not good test takers. So
Yeah.
with folks that aren't good test takers, or maybe don't have that confidence, or maybe even come in with some sort of a disability of learning, do you show any support at turning tables?
Yes. So our teaching style had to change over the years because in the beginning it was basically sink or swim. We basically in a sort of a roundabout way, just threw people behind the well, sink or swim. And that's not the way to do shit. When it came to the education, we took from our own stuff and also bar smarts as well with a little W set that we didn't know that we were doing and made a pretty comprehensive program. So we deep dived in vodka. Vodka is this, gin is this, bourbon is this, rye is this, rum is this. But then we started to expand. So when we talked about rum, we had to start talking about the slave trade. So that happened the second year. And when we talked about bourbon, this is right before, no, this is right after actually Uncle Nearest is out. So, and I do remember that I had some friends who went down to Jack Daniels before Uncle Nearest came out, and Nearest Green's descendants were there, and Jack Daniels didn't say shit about it. So, yeah, before Uncle Nearest came out,
Okay.
we've had the distiller, the blender from Uncle Nearest teach a class. We've had to talk about Black bartenders, and we have had to talk about their contributions to the booze industry. We talk a lot about that, and we bring that into perspective so everybody can see that it's not just cut and dry. Everything is fucked up, and we have to talk about it because this is real life stuff. And people get a better understanding, and that's how they put their passion into things. Because it's like, okay, I know that this rum that I really, really, really enjoy has a fucked up history, but I still enjoy it. And it is. Rum is such a thin line. There's just so much fucked up shit about rum, but yet it's one of the most enjoyable spirits. I remember people were bitching back in the day, was this 2015, 2016, when Plantation was putting sugar into, when they were transporting it up and putting sugar, and Rocky's sitting out here defending it and shit like that. But it's like, we never really scratched the surface of it.
Right.
And on turning tables, we're talking about real shit. We're talking about it. And Beach Bum did it with his book too, with Potions of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And then Wayne book. Wayne put us with a bottle of rum too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And having people like Wayne and Jeff in the city is also good too, because these are the guys who wrote about these things and they're available to talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the W sets are trying to change their image a little bit because of the fact that Chocolate City's best. If you're in Chocolate City's best, you're expected to take W sets. And all of those people that are within that organization are smart as fuck. Dee, who is Chocolate City's best, is the first Black person to teach for the W sets, I think. Yeah. She taught us our level 2s. Oh, and also with that W set, once you pass the level 3, if you want to work for them, you have to take a teacher's exam, which Rhiannon just did and passed.
Wow. Congratulations to that.
And she said that was even harder than level 3. I'm like, I don't know how the fuck you keep torturing yourself like this.
It is torture.
I'm not drinking anymore. And I'm like, well, all right, that's fair. Yeah. So
it is torture, but there is importance around it. I know, there's importance around it, whether you're taking it to expand your knowledge, and like you said, to have the importance of having it on your resume if you're a Black and brown person, or even just a female. I mean, it's just having that education behind you. And I don't think there's anything wrong with furthering your education, period, amen.
Yeah.
There's so much that we can learn behind the bar beyond knowing how to make a cocktail. And I know I've said it. I know many people have said it. I'm sure you've even said it sometimes. Like, you can teach anybody how to make a cocktail. You can, you absolutely can teach people how to make a cocktail. But then really understanding the nuance of the spirits and the history behind, those bottles that are behind your bar and how they're made. So much of it is science, right?
Mm-hmm.
And history. But then to take the time, your own time, and I'll say it again, time is our greatest asset, is something to be celebrated.
It's also our greatest liability.
It is our greatest liability. It is. Yeah.
We were able to do a bunch of cool things with turntables. 2 years ago, I made a rum with a local distiller up here.
You did?
Yeah. Porch Jam is the distillery, and their rum that they came out with, which is 100% sugarcane juice. They came out with their first rum at 86, and I was mad because it's a sugarcane rum and it should be at 100. So we did one at 100 proof, and we did a barrel. So basically, we did a tote basically. So we put out a 2-year white. So we put it out in 23, but the juice is from 21, and it was at 100 proof. And it was delicious.
That's amazing. Did you ever think that you'd be making a rum?
Nope.
What were you feeling when you were going through that process?
About fucking time.
Yeah. It had been incredibly exhilarating and exciting.
It was. And the guys who, Zeno is the distiller. Zeno was like, why are you making fun of my rum at 86? I'm like, because it should be at 100. So I'm like, can we do 100 at a, as a fundraiser for Turning Tables?
Very cool.
We got it to all bars around the city. It was distributed by a distributor down here, and we made sure that we got it out to Baton Rouge. We got a couple bottles up to Lafayette, and that was, it was our fundraiser. So me and Teray were out there hitting bars every fucking day.
I bet.
Always had a bag. Yeah. I always had a bottle in my bag, and go to bars like, hey, taste this. They're like, wow, this is great. Who is this? I'm like, it's actually us. Mm-hmm. We're doing this as a fundraiser. If you guys, grab a bottle, grab 2 bottles, grab a case, So here's a price on 1 bottle. Here's a price on 6. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we're going to be able to do it again.
I'm sure you will. I have no doubt. Can you tell our listeners how they can find Turning Tables?
Sure. www.turningtablesnola.org. The website there explains what we do, how we do it, who's on the board. The description of all of the people who have graduated from the program. We did a record with Sazerac. I work with the Numero Group to put out a record called In Our Lifetime. As another fundraiser, we did that 2 years ago. No, now 2 years ago, because we're in 2026. And that was something that we did with Sazerac, where we just did some soul songs and some salsa. And we paired it with drinks from a bar out in San Diego.
Wow.
So you get to hear some soul music and some old school salsa.
What was that experience like for you? Because, really going back to your roots, in music.
It was dope because, one of the guys from Numero Group is a friend. His name is Rob Sevier. I collect 45s. For something like that, to have a project where the art was inspired by the person who did the art for the Black Panthers.
Oh, that's so great.
Having that in our repertoire because Turning Tables can be 2 things. You've sat people and you've got to get them out in a certain time, and that's turning the table. But also turntables are musical things too. So with that, to do that, and also we did a couple of parties. We did, it was 2024 that we did.
Yes, BCD. I remember you were in a room and you had
like a record store.
Lot of vinyl, and it was very busy in there. And I didn't really get a big chance to chat with you, but I thought that was just the most amazing activation that was at the entire thing.
Yeah, at bar, I DJ'd for 8 hours both of those days.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah, I have a Bitterman's bag that Avery and Janet gave to me like years ago. It's a small bag. I love that bag. And I put like 8 hours worth of records in there. So yeah.
I mean,
No, I put in
so many cool opportunities.
like almost 14 hours worth of records in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So folks can find Turning Tables. Where can they find you?
Oh,
If you want them to find you. If you want them to find you, Geoffrey, where can they find you?
They can't.
They can't.
I feel that at my age right now, that if I bartend, I'm not going to do a cocktail bar. I just want to do a dive bar to make money, because there are so many people in Turning Tables that are out here working in these bars. My ass doesn't need to be out there anymore. It doesn't have to be up front. I'm working. This is my disappearing tour. Actually, I'm working. Everybody is grinding to be seen. I am working to disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're working for your peace. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you on social media?
I'm on Instagram only. I quit Facebook because all of my white friends always had that one racist friend. It's like, fuck all you people.
Yeah.
I know, but he's been a friend of mine since like high school. And yeah, but he's a racist prick. I know, but he's my friend. Fuck you. I'm done. And so I just got off of Facebook. So I'm on Instagram. I'm under the name Reverend Robert Sinewave, Rev _ REV _ ROBERTSINEWAVE. And I put up the nights that I'm DJing, Turning Table stuff, and that's about it.
Well, I'll make sure, listeners, please give Geoffrey a follow. Jump on the Turning Tables social media, on their website. And
really we've still got records for sale. We still have records for sale up on the website, too, if you ever wanted to do that. So, yeah,
listeners, purchase an album.
Yeah. It goes towards, especially, our money kind of dried up when the Trump administration came through. DEI is a naughty word. So,
well, hopefully things will be changing. I mean, things have to change.
Yeah,
they have to. It's right now is such a scary time.
Yep,
it really is. Would you come back on Served Up and be my guest again?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I feel like we're just scratching the surface here with you, Geoffrey. I would love this to be a 2-parter.
Okay.
If you would be open to it.
Not a problem.
That's wonderful.
We could really talk shit on the next one.
Well, I want to get into some of that shit. I just feel like we need another episode. That's what we need. Sure. We need 2 parts. So sure. I would love to have you back, and sooner than later, we'll get something scheduled and we will get it released quickly as well. And with that said, I just want to wish you just some great health and a lot of peace, Geoffrey. And thank you for coming on Served Up.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. Served Up is brought to you by Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. Produced by Zunu.online. Music by We Killed the Lion can be found on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to be notified of our future Served Up episodes. Cheers.